Hi, this is Nell, and this is a follow-up to my last video, the one on air layering a rubber plant, rubber tree, Ficus elastica. And this is the cutting off, the pruning off of the air layered portion, and also how I plant it. Air layering works just fine on other house plants like the weeping fig, the fiddle leaf fig, the umbrella tree, the dwarf umbrella tree, the Scheffleras, the monstera, the split leaf philodendron. What am I forgetting? Oh yes, and the other one that I've done it on is the Dieffenbachia tropic snow and the dump cane. So it not only works for this plant, but other house plants too. So I thought this was a good opportunity to show my other rubber plant, the one that was in the rubber plant, rubber tree, Ficus elastica care video that I did, and it's doing just great. It's growing. It's starting to grow out a little bit, which is what they tend to do. So at some point, as it gets taller, I might actually stake it to keep it a bit more compact. But actually, I have it in my office, and it does have room to spread. So who knows? I might just leave it this way, but it's doing fine. So we are over here at the potting table now, which is actually my patio table. I'm too lazy to set up my work table, so we're just going to work out here. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that there's going to be a blog post to go along with this video. The link will be down below in the description box, along with the video and the post on air layering this plant. It'll also be on our website, joyousgarden.com. And by the way, I just soaked the air layering part this morning. I used a very narrow-necked, small watering can to soak the moss because I want to make sure that's nice and wet going into it. And I also watered this plant, I think it was 2 days ago, because I want to make sure that it is not stressed going into this whole procedure. So this is what I'm using for this project. I'm using a stake because the cutting is fairly tall. It's over 2 feet tall. I'm using a 1 gallon grow pot because I wanted something tall and narrow. It has a mixture of potting soil and succulent and cactus mix in it. There's a trowel so I can make a hole in there to put the cutting into. My trusty Felcos, which I'm going to cut the cutting off, and I sharpened them this morning. That's my sharpening tool above it that I love. It's light and very easy to use because you want to make sure your pruners are very clean and very sharp when you're doing this. And then a rag, because Ficus elasticas bleed a milky sap like crazy when either cut or when they have their leaves taken off. And the mixture in the pot is just temporary. It's now early September. I'm just going to let the roots furtherly develop in this mix until early spring, when I will actually transplant it into a larger pot, and that'll be potting soil and the amendments I use. But especially now going into the winter months, at some point, we're going to go into fall and then winter. I just want the plant to be able to do its thing for a few months and then to be able to rest for the winter. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this leaf here because I'm going to cut it approximately right above this node here. So I'm just going to break the leaf off. There we go. And there's that sap coming out that I don't want too much of it, so I'm just going to let it do its thing. I'm just going to let the rag absorb up the sap for it takes about 40 seconds. I have removed the plastic, and now for the cutting off. Oops, I have to take off this leaf too, which I did not see because the plastic bag was over it. So there'll be a 40-second delay. So here is the baby plant here, and I took off a couple of lower leaves here just because I want to get this down in the soil or in the mix. And by the way, I wet the mix really, really well because I don't want it to go into a dry mix. I oftentimes do succulents and other things. I will put in a dry mix and I'll let them be, but this, a wet mix. I took out a little bit of the mix so that I could get a nice deep well in here because I want that air layered root ball to go deep inside because I can tell there are going to be some roots forming up here too. So I'm going to put it a little bit deep down in there, and I'm probably going to have to get some more mix. I knew I was going to have to because I only did it 3/4 full. And for some reason, I don't have my gloves on, but oh well, we're living dangerously today. Looks like it might stand up, but I think I'm going to put this in anyway, just for now, and I'm going to keep this in my utility room. So it'll be just fine. It's not going to look too, I mean, it looks awkward because of the size, but it's not going to be out in public. So I'm putting some more mix in, and what I'm doing with this, I oftentimes don't, but I'm going to pack it down a little bit because the mix is pretty light and pretty loose. I just want it to be able to hold the weight of this plant up. And these Ficus elasticus have really strong roots. Actually, all the plants that I know can be air layered have really strong roots, so it can take a little packing in. And it'll be just fine. So I think that's what I'm going to do because I want room to be able to water it, of course, because I want to soak this top quarter that's dry really, really well. And for now, it's going in my very bright utility room. I am going to keep it moist, not overly moist, but maybe a little bit moister than I would the mother plant just because it is rooting. I do not want it to go dry, 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 so I will probably water this thoroughly every week. And when the cooler months come, December and January here, I'll probably back off to every 2 weeks. I'll see. I'll have to see how it's doing. It's a very light mix, so I'm not too concerned about it staying too wet, but I just don't want to overwater it, but I don't want to let it go bone dry either. So here is the mother plant, and as you can see, it's a pretty thick stem, a trunk. Those things coming out at the base are actually aerial roots. It's not to be concerned about. It's how the plant grows. Ficuses develop these really extensive roots, and some of them sit above ground. So that's what those are. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to strip off all the leaves, and then I'm going to let it develop into a tree form. So, which is also a standard form. I'm going to take off a couple of leaves on the bottom and a couple of leaves on the top. And then I'm going to show you what I think is going to happen. So I've taken off a couple of lower leaves. I'm going to go back and I'm going to trim those a little bit closer, but for the sake of the video, I just want to do this. And then I also have taken off ones up here. That one I already took off. So I'm going to strip the rest of the leaves eventually. And what I think is going to happen, there's a node here, and there's a node here. Oh my gosh, there's a hummingbird who was just almost flying over here. I think there's going to be growth appearing here, and maybe even here, I think. And that way it'll turn into a tree form. Or that's what I'm hoping anyway. So I will be transplanting both the mother and the baby next spring. So stay tuned for that, because you'll see what is happening with the mother plant, which will also be kind of a surprise to me because I've never done that before with a Ficus elastica, but I thought it would be a fun thing to try. So the related blog posts and videos will be down below in the description box for you, so be sure and check those out. But I hope you have found this follow-up video to air layering a Ficus elastica to be helpful. The cutting off and the planting of the baby plant. I am anxious to see how it grows. These plants grow really fast, so by spring it should have been growing even more. I thank you for all your likes and your subscribes. I really appreciate them, and I have a lot more videos coming your way, so please stay tuned for those. So now let's get out in our gardens or into our indoor gardens and make our worlds a more beautiful place. Oh yes, this is the bougainvillea that I just pruned 2 weeks ago, and it's already putting on a beautiful show of color, but I digress. And I just want to say I will catch you in the next video, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!